So the Epson P900 printer, I have a lot of mixed feelings about it, honestly. I'm a full-time artist. I make 80% of my income selling art prints of my work that I print on exclusively Epson printers. I recently purchased a P900, upgrading from my P800 because I wanted the new features, and I was having a difficult time finding ink for my P800 because Epson has phased it out since they have the newer models. So every once in a while, you just need to upgrade your printers. Now, these printers are expensive, around $1,200 at the time of recording this video. And so it's quite an investment for an artist who I work from home. I don't work for a company. And so for me, I have to figure out how to fit this into my budget. And I need to know that what I am purchasing is really worth it. And that's why I wanted to do this video, because I figure if you're watching this, you are in a similar situation. And I want you to be able to avoid some of the mistakes I have. And I wanted you to see the pros and cons of this printer so that you can decide if it's a good printer for your needs. First, I want to share the positives because I always like to look on the bright side of things. They are beautiful. The colors are vibrant. They are exact matches to the colors of the prints that I made with the P800, so I didn't have to do any editing of my files to get them to match up with what I was printing before. Also, the affordability of the ink cost is really good for a pigment-based ink printer. And that's the other really good feature of this printer. Just like the other P800 that I upgraded from, it is a pigment-based printer. This means that these prints are archival, so they're not going to fade for longer than our lifetimes if they're hung inside in normal lighting conditions. And to me, as a professional artist, this is super important. I will not buy any printer that isn't a pigment-based printer for that purpose. Now for some of the negatives. This top cover up here gets really dirty super easily. It's made of a glossy see-through material. It's cool because you can see all of the parts underneath, and you don't have to release this to open so that you can check all of your inks out and you can see the print head in there. So it's kind of cool to be able to see through everything while it's running and operating. That is sort of how some of the bigger printers, the P6000 for example, is like that. Now this over here is more of the traditional kind of matte textured surface, but this area is so glossy that all of the hair and the dust, anything you got floating in your air is going to stick right to the top of this thing. And if you've ever had printers before, you know just how bad it is if you get hair down inside your printer. And it will ruin your prints. It clogs up your print head. It makes you have to waste a whole lot of ink to clean it out of there. And sometimes multiple cleanings of the print head still won't get the hair out. I know this from experience. I have cats who hang out with me in my studio a lot, so I have to be careful of the hair. Another downside is that if you are going to hook up the P900 through your Wi-Fi, every time it runs out of paper, so let's say you've put a stack of paper in it and you have, let's say, 10 sheets in there. You've printed the 10 sheets, but you have 20 prints that are supposed to be going to be printed on your computer and you just ran out of paper. Normally, the printers go into kind of a waiting mode, and then you can add more paper, and then it starts to print the remainder of them. But the thing is, if you have this particular printer hooked up to Wi-Fi, and I asked their support about this, so I know it's a known issue with this printer, if you hook it up to the Wi-Fi and you run it out of paper, it will time out to the point that when you load paper again, it will stick one sheet through there, and then it'll only print about 2 inches of the print, and then it'll just waste the rest of the paper. And that's wasting supplies. I absolutely hate to waste supplies. That's money just going into the trash. This next downside is even worse, actually, and I think it's been so frustrating to me. Okay, so there are sheet feeder issues. I'm going to show you a video right now that I recorded. I was just creating B-roll for this video. I didn't think this was going to actually happen. I wasn't trying to catch it in action doing this. It just happened that I was making 6 prints and one of them had the sheet feeder problem. It goes in there, it gets all bubbled up, it makes loud screeching noises, and it ruins prints. You can see here that print that fed through wrong has a buckled, dented area where it got creased. And it also is misaligned on the paper. It should have an even border all the way around it, but it's printed cockeyed on there. Now, I contacted Epson support about this and they said the printer shouldn't do this, but it's doing it. And the thing is that I had one before this and it was doing this a lot. Like, it printed like 50 prints out of 200 cockeyed. And I was like, what is going on with this thing? So I contacted them and they said, well, it shouldn't be doing that. And we're so sorry, we're sending you a replacement. So the one I'm doing a review on now is the replacement. Like I said, I've been going through a lot with this printer and that's why I have mixed feelings about it. But I would like to say the replacement that they sent me does work a whole lot better than the previous one I had, but it still has the paper sheet feed issues sometimes. I would say it's not in 1 in 6 prints, but maybe 1 in 15. And still, that's a lot because you are wasting money. One last negative is that the P900 prints slower than the P800 did. I could print twice the amount of prints in the same amount of time with my P800 versus my P900. So I don't really like that about it, but if you are not printing a huge number of prints, it might not matter to you. One thing is that the ink cost is less on the P900 than the P800 is currently. And so all of these things are give and takes, and also the P800 is phased out. So if you wanted to get one of those, you have to get a refurbished one or a used one, and you just don't know the quality of that printer and what it's going to be. It won't have warranties or anything like that. And with investing this much money, it's better to get a new printer. And so when weighing all of the things, I think that the P900 is still a good printer for artists. It's just going into it, you need to know that there are some limitations to it and there are some negatives. All right, well, if you found this video helpful, you might like to watch my playlist here that shows you everything you need to know about how to make art prints. It's basically a free course that you can access right here on YouTube. All right, thank you so much for watching. See you next time.